What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Roxora, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience at a set champs over the weekend where I was able to win a scar. Bam! Made top 8. Very happy about that. And kind of talk about the list that I ran and kind of in relation to it, the meta and how it's evolved from the North American Championships and the deck that won that. And then also kind of leading into, some of the decks that I'm going to be messing around with in the near future. Maybe I'll do some decks with them, and you'll kind of gather from that. So a lot of stuff to talk about in this video. I think it should be a pretty good one, and yeah, exciting stuff. Before we get into the meat of everything, if you enjoy the content, remember to like, comment, subscribe. It's the best way to see more of my content. All right, let's talk about this list. So, in my preparations for the set championships, I started playing Ruby Sapphire a lot as just kind of one of the better decks in the game. Definitely melds with my playstyle a lot. And while there are some decks that I do enjoy playing, or think maybe would be more competitive, like Emerald Amethyst, or Emerald or Amethyst Steel. Those decks, they don't really tend to have a lot of agency in the game. There's a less decision making, generally speaking, because you're trying to close the game out faster. And obviously, as many people will tell you, these types of control decks usually tend to favor better players because they get more decision making, they get more kind of agency over how the game plays out. So that's just where I was leading up to, but I kind of needed to look for a little bit more of an unconventional deck, unconventional build, as the first place deck in the North American Championships was able to handily beat the more traditional Ruby Sapphire list. So this is Edmund Shu's list that ended up winning. Edmund Shu, very avid Ruby Amethyst player. That's the deck that he won. I'm blanking on which DLC it was. Right, but so everyone kind of seeing this list handily beat Ruby Sapphire, and some of maybe less experienced players look at this and go, "Awesome! This deck just won a tournament. Time to jam it at a set champ." I don't, most more experienced players will kind of look at this and clearly see, and also Edmund clearly stated that this list was built to beat Ruby Sapphire specifically, was meant to go into an environment where you were expecting to play a lot of Ruby Sapphire, and hoping to beat it. And that's exactly what he did. So obviously, not trying to discount anything from Edmund Shu or his deck building prowess. Obviously, very well deserved, and did what he sought out to do, with 4 copies of Lady Tremaine and 4 copies of the Library. Both of these cards ended up being quite favorable against Ruby Sapphire. Obviously, the classic Flynn Rider Sisu package, that tends to perform well against Ruby Sapphire in and of itself. And then obviously the full 12 one-drop package, all of which are able to quest while providing some card advantage, is really, really good. But yeah, the big one being Lady Tremaine, as Ruby Sapphire often has to slam 1, maybe 2 at most larger characters onto the board in order to win the game, and Lady Tremaine can just easily remove those while adding a 2 lower character onto the board. So very, very good against Ruby Sapphire, and again, it showed in the finals. If you haven't watched the finals, you can kind of see how this deck can just kind of handily handle Ruby Sapphire. So, again, even though I see that this list, is built to beat Ruby Sapphire and really shouldn't be played at a set champ where you might be in more of an open field. There could be any number of different decks to play, which we'll kind of talk about. I still expected a decent number of people, or at least more people than usual, to be playing Ruby Amethyst, or at least looking at it, because of the recent play. So I said, okay, this is the list that I'm expecting to see at least one of. I kind of need to if I'm gonna play Ruby Sapphire, or play a deck like it, I need to be prepared for this type of list to be seen. So I was looking around, and I found this list. And these lists are the same. I ended up just carbon copying. I was going to change around a couple of things, but I ended up not. So I saw this list that top 4 at a big tournament, 117 players, nothing to scoff at. And there was a lot of interesting things about this list that I really liked. So the first thing is the inclusion of the Lucky Dime. Some lists have been cutting on that card. We used to be at 2 copies, now down to 1, and some lists have cut it out all entirely. This is kind of the card that you need in order to beat Ruby Amethyst, as you can play your character. You can play Lucky Dime, play your character, and then use it to gain lore immediately. Ruby Amethyst does not have a way of removing items, getting access to the Lucky Dime or having access to it is one of the things that's gonna make things good for you. The full 4 copies of Maleficent Monstrous Dragon is nice, as having a consistent answer to Lady Tremaine. So you could dragon, they could play your Tamatoa. They can Lady Tremaine it. You can answer back with Maleficent. They Lady Tremaine you again. You hopefully have another Maleficent or something like it. Definitely liking the full 4 Monstrous Dragons. I liked some people have been cutting back on Mauis. So the 3 Mauis here, making sure to have decent answers to locations, while also just being a good card to just contest the board. And all those things are really nice. Really liking Sisu and Ice Block in the meta. Vitalosphere is another interesting card. But the big thing that I really loved about this list were 2 cards. So the first one being Goofy Super Goof. One of my favorite cards. I'm not a big Ruby player, but slamming down a Goofy and killing something, gaining 2 lore, that just really appeals to me. Just really liking. I mean, also just I love the look of this card. It's just look at this dude. So I really like this card. I was really hoping that this card would see more play than it is. It's really not seeing a ton of play right now. Some Ruby Sapphire decks were experimenting with the new Raya, the one that readies a character whenever you ink. And I tried that. Wasn't super ecstatic about it. And then the big one here is the full 4 copies of Maui Half Shark. This is going to be a big topic in this video because I think this card is absolutely insane. I think everyone kind of freaked out when they saw it. They all were very hyped in the set spoilers. And then when it came out, I think, people were kind of overplaying it or overvaluing it. They tried to play it in circumstances where maybe it wasn't that good. Or just people not fully evaluating what this card can do. And so there were some cases where Ruby Sapphire started playing it and then cut it, but now it's back. Ruby Amethyst tried to play it and then it just doesn't seem to be the right place for this card. But I have been very happy with this card. So when I started playing with it, I just fell in love with it. So I kind of was like, and also, sorry, the other thing was I felt like people were not coming prepared to answer Maui Half Shark, right? Where, a lot of people were not running Along Came Zeus. Again, the Ruby Sapphire decks cutting down on Maleficent Dragons, running more Sisus. So the Amethyst decks running Elsas, right, which don't answer this card very well. So I kind of went into my preparation with the mentality of Half Shark is going to be the cornerstone card of my deck. I want this card to be in play. And you'll kind of see as I kind of talk about the gameplay in that a lot of my games tended to focus around this card when it came into play. But yeah, but otherwise, this looks like a pretty standard Ruby Sapphire list. Only 2 Ice Blocks and 2 Sisus. I wish I could fit in more, but as also you can see here, this is a 62 card list. That was the other issue that I had with this list, where I really wanted to see if I could cut down. I really have absolutely no idea what I would cut down. Hideaway, with the 3 Mauis, maybe that's unnecessary, but also I kind of like it. We're cutting down on Visions of the Future, which is unfortunate. That card is very necessary when you're looking for a Lucky Dime. Maybe I don't need the 4 Maleficent. Maybe you don't need the 4 Grammatala. I don't really know. I don't think I ever played Let It Go in the entire tournament, so that's maybe a little bit rough, but also having a repeatable, again, removal spell with Maui is kind of nice. Again, that's not Brawl. That can hit things that Brawl can't. So, the cuts are getting quite tight in these lists. And I'll kind of talk about that as well, is that, while I ran a 62 card deck and I didn't really love that, I didn't really feel the inconsistency of it. And again, it's only 2 extra cards, but I think in Lorcana, maybe it might be possible that running more than the minimum 60 cards could be more acceptable than it is in a game like Magic, which the numbers wise is a little bit more unforgiving. That being said, I'm not condoning or not saying running more than 60 cards is amazing. I'm just saying that's what I did in this tournament. I couldn't really figure out the right cuts that I wanted to make, and so I didn't. But anyways, and as we'll kind of talk about, both Maui and Goofy performed really well. Round 1, I actually ended up playing against this exact list, and while it was this was actually ended up being a best of 3 Swiss format, which I was not expecting. I'll kind of touch on that real quickly. I don't really care whether it's 2-game format or 3-game format. I actually, I'm not the biggest fan of the 2-game format, as again, I've had time to mess around with it over the years, but I've kind of accepted the 2-game format for what it is. But my big pet peeve is when I'm preparing for a tournament, I'm expecting to go to a tournament, and they don't really publicize the format ahead of time. So I arrived at this tournament and, sat down for my first match and saw that it was a best of 3. And I was like, oh, I was not prepared for this. So that's a little bit annoying. Again, it didn't really matter. And in many cases, Ruby Sapphire is probably better in a 3-game format, as it is able to win games on the draw, probably a little bit easier than some other decks. But in any case, I faced up. I wasn't sure if it was exactly this list, but they were playing a bunch of Lady Tremaines. That happened to me quite a few times. But I was able to kind of sneak out the victory. One of the big things was Super Goof. Again, in those games where, in game 1, they quested with, their Flynn Rider. On turn 3, right on turn 2, they played it. On turn 3, they quest with it. And since I had turn 2 ramp and to turn 3 Super Goof on the draw, I was able to answer the Flynn Rider while gaining 2 lore, and that was a very powerful swing turn that caught my opponent off guard. So that the moment I did that with Goofy, I knew I was going to like it. I didn't really do too much testing with Goofy beforehand, but I was very satisfied with Goofy for the rest of the tournament. What else was I to say? So that was round 1, feeling good. I got absolutely clobbered by an Amethyst Steel deck in game 2. I think they were the one that ended up winning the tournament. Round 3, I faced a fellow friend, fellow tester. They were also playing Amethyst Steel. They were playing a little bit more of a different version, a more aggressive version. So the issue in the Amethyst Steel in round the more mid-range version in round 2 was that I was playing Maui Sharks, and they ended up having Strength of Raging Fire every time with enough damage to take it out. So as I said, in a lot of the games where I played Maui Shark, if it became, do you have an answer for this? If you do, okay, that's pretty bad. But if they didn't, it often just won me the game. So against again my friend Kyle, they played Smee on turn two. They didn't want to quest because they knew about the Goofy from previous exposure. And then when I eventually played Maui Shark, they just didn't feel like they could quest at all from that point onward. And that's really the thing that I like about Half Shark is that while it doesn't always come down and challenge something, you can only really do that if you have Vitalis Sphere. Maui Shark often puts a pause in the game for your opponent until they deal with it, because a lot of times, if you've played a brawl, if you've played a sail, and they let you challenge with Half Shark, it's just way too much of a swing from there. So yeah, and then since it's evasive, if they don't quest, you can freely quest with it on your turn, and again, unless they have an Elsa or something like even if they have an Elsa, they challenge into the Half Shark and it dies. Their Elsa dies. So there's really not much that the Amethyst decks can do except for Amethyst Steel if they have Strength of a Raging Fire or Along Came Zeus. So yeah, that's pretty powerful when you think about it that way. So even if you're not getting too much value out of the Half Shark every turn, it's kind of putting pressure on your opponent and making life difficult since they can't really quest effectively. And even if you make the argument that they should be questing, right? If you make the argument of, hey, like you're an aggressive deck, you need to just quest anyways, cool, then I get to kill their stuff. So it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't with Half Shark. So yeah, really, really love this card. So that was, rounds 2 and 3. So, feeling pretty good. And then ended up playing against Blurple, Amethyst Sapphire. And I was very nervous because I was told I hadn't really done too much with the matchup, and was told that matchup was really bad for Ruby Sapphire. Like Amethyst Sapphire, Blurple was supposed to like kind of sweep me, or at least be more favored than you might think. And I think it was more just that they had terrible draws, but I did not really feel under pressure at all. They played a lot of genies, and Sisu and Emboldened Warrior, Empowered Warrior, Powered Sibling does really well into genies, where if they go genie into genie, you can often just wipe their board with Sisu, and you don't really care too much. Their typos and their weaker characters got answered by the Goofy. And again, unless they had Fox to challenge back into the Goofy, they were in a pretty bad spot. Another thing is that they didn't often have answers to my items. I don't really think they do even in Sapphire. Like again, besides Hideaway, another aspect is that when they ramp into Hades, and even though if they play the Hades, they put the card into your Inkwell, so you kind of get a card back. So their removal is not as good as you'd think. Right? So like if I play the Shark or Tamatoa, and they put into my Inkwell, now I'm that more easily able to play Sisu's and Maleficent's, which again, as long as I have an ice block, Sisu answers the Hades back. So there was a lot of back and forth in the Blurple matchup, which I enjoyed, but again, maybe they didn't draw too well, but I don't think that matchup is quite as polarizing as people might think. So anyway, so that was round 4. Was able to get to 3-1 without too much of a hassle. And with that, I was at table 2, and I believe we did the math, and the top 3 tables could easily draw into the top 8. So, a little bit of like again, I don't condone or I'm not saying that it's the best feeling in the world when the whole top tables do that. And kind of make life harder for the other people fighting for their tournament life, trying to make it into Top Cut. But it is what it is. And again, got Top Cut. And then unfortunately, and while I got my scar, got knocked out pretty early. facing a deck like this. And the big thing is Go-Go Tamago. This card absolutely is a house against Ruby Sapphire. As again, basically being Turbo Goat. Believe they had a goat on the board, and I ended up questing with my Hiram Vlaversham. They challenged the goat into my Hiram, and immediately play the goat for 4 lore. So that's kind of crazy. And there's not really too much I can do about that, right? The options are don't quest at all, which doesn't seem great, or let them do this. So yeah, this matchup looked pretty bad. They have just so many ways of instantaneously getting lore from White Rose, Go-Go, and Merlin, and then still keeping up with like Genie and Curse Merfolk and Bonsai, sorry, is difficult as well. So yeah, rough game here. I think I did lose in the best of 3. I was able to take a game off of them. So not too bad. Again, maybe in another world, could have won that, but otherwise was pretty happy with the list and how I played, and yeah, that felt pretty good. And that kind of leads me into kind of the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is kind of where I'm going from here. Because I still think that Maui Shark is an amazing card, but is also still not fully explored. I think, like, while we have established that Ruby Sapphire is a deck that can play Shark, and Ruby Amethyst is probably a deck that should not play Shark, I think we've looked at the options that Ruby Amethyst has, and I think the other 6-drops that you can run, like the Lady in Chairs, are just a little bit better at doing what Ruby Amethyst wants to do. This card's a little bit slower. I do think that there is more decks for Maui Shark out there, and I'm trying to. That's my next goal, is just what other decks can I jam Maui Shark in and have it be a real powerhouse. I'm going to show off some of the lists that I've been experimenting with, and kind of talk that through. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy that. And again, if you want to look at my list here, I guess I can make this public. If you guys want to take a look at my at this list, again, it's also available. I'll link the ink deck version as well. But yeah, I'm happy with this. So again, if you guys are interested in messing around with Super Goof and whatnot, you guys can do that as well. But yeah, let's talk about some of the other lists that I'm experimenting with. All right, as I said, yeah, I was obviously really impressed with Maui Shark and with Super Goof, as I said, in the current meta. And so really trying to dig more into the Shark and seeing what other lists it can improve. That's like really a big thing, is when a lot of times most decks are just on the cusp, of being meta relevant. And really what they need is just one really big card to kind of push them over the top. So that was kind of like the case with like Steel Song, and then when Robin Hood came out. I'm trying to think of, right, kind of like Genie with Blurple. So yeah, there's things like that can happen. So I was looking at Ruby Amber, and seeing that, hey, there's the card Gaston on turn 3 means a half Shark on turn 4. That I thought was pretty powerful. Tried to experiment with that, and was struggling to put that deck together. And then I realized, well, wait a second, I definitely remember like watching some coverage, looking online, and seeing that there was a Ruby Amber Songs deck. What if this deck can just kind of slot into that? Did some digging, found some lists, and then eventually arrived at this version of the deck. So Maui Shark and Robin Hood have been a pairing that I've been trying to make work for quite a while. Again, you've already seen, I did a previous video on the Ruby Emerald deck version of this deck. I don't think that deck has quite gotten enough better with the inclusion of Maui Shark, but this deck might be close. So Now, what do we have here? We have obviously your usual singer cards like Cinderella, Ariel, and Ursula. But instead of just playing your normal Amber songs, we actually have a couple of powerful Ruby songs that we can make use of. The biggest one is Be King Undisputed. It would be awesome if we could get some kind of brawl effect as a song. I think it's unlikely. I think they're very nervous about doing that. But for now, we have Be King Undisputed, which is still a type of removal. So yeah, Ursula and Ariel singing Be King Undisputed is kind of exciting. It can be hit off of Robin Hood. It can be sung by Robin Hood, but probably you want to quest with it. And then also Teeth and Ambitions as a nice way to enable Rapunzel, while also providing some removal. Usually your Mauis can retain a lot of their health, or can you don't really mind those cards receiving damage. So that should be a nice little removal spell. Can be sung by all your singers, which is cool. Even Mother Gothel as well. You can Mother Gothel, heal it up with Julieta Madrigal, then sing Teeth and Ambition. So that's a cool play. So there's a whole lot of ways to use both of these Ruby removals effects to great results. And again, anytime you're removing cards while also gaining lore through Maui Shark, it's going to be a really nice combination. The thing that really excited me by this color combination was actually Part of Your World. This is a card all the way back from set 1 that really hasn't done anything. It's not a particularly powerful card, I'll be honest. But the realization that with Robin Hood, the resolution of the effect, resulting with the action, means that you can, resolve the action, and then at least I'll have to look into this. From what I believe I've tested with this so far, you can do this, right? Where you quest with Robin Hood, and any of the characters that end up in your discard can be gotten back with Part of Your World. If that's the case, it's pretty powerful, right? With questing with Robin Hood, milling over Part of Your World, and then getting back a shark or a Maui is pretty nice. If you mill over this one Chernabog here, it also works really well. Robin Hood and Chernabog kind of work together, as again, if you are milling over your songs and casting those while also milling over some characters, you're going to be able to play Chernabog pretty easily in a short amount of time. So that's a pretty cool synergy there. As you can see, this deck is pretty set on Uninkables. Maybe you can include a second Chernabog's Followers. Only 3 copies of Part of Your World, as again, it's a little bit of a weaker card, but it being hit off of Robin Hood is a kind of a cool synergy that I'm hoping is good. And then of course, Bare Necessities and Pirate's Life, those are pretty self-explanatory. Trying out Heal What Has Been Hurt, as trying to make it so that the curve works naturally. One of the things that's a little bit awkward about this deck is that the natural curve of the deck is a little bit off. So going turn 1 Cinderella into turn 2 Mother Gothel, and then healing up the Mother Gothel while drawing a card should be pretty nice, and hopefully that maybe disincentivizes your opponent from challenging into the and removing the Cinderella, so that they don't just get eaten up by the Mother Gothel. I'm still figuring that out. Like turn 1 Cinderella into turn 2 Ursula, sing Teeth and Ambitions is another early play that you can make. So really trying to figure out the early game. The mid game of this deck is really where this deck shines, right? Just playing efficient characters while using the ones that you already have to play removal is always going to be a powerful play that you can make. So yeah, and then the other awkward thing is, like with Pirate's Life, your Cinderellas and Ursulas are really the only characters you want to use to play it, other than your Maui Shark or maybe your other Maui. Not a lot of the other characters are particularly excited about singing this card, but I think it's pretty necessary in order to make the deck work. So yeah, this is my idea. Again, still messing around with it. I'm toying around with the ideas. Yeah, if any judges can confirm the interaction with Robin Hood and Party World, would greatly appreciate that, because yeah, there's not a whole lot of rules clarifications on this card. But in any case, let's move on to the next deck. All right, so here's the other deck that I was toying around with. I love that I made up this name for it. And this deck is doing a good job of incorporating both Maui Shark and Goofy. So kind of, again, doing the thing that Ruby Steel tends to gravitate towards is the challenging matters. So you have all of the cards that you would expect in a deck that's focusing on that. So you have your Robin Hood package, Calhoun, Goofy, and then obviously again the Maui Shark, and then this Raya that I was mentioning before fits into this well, where you can ready a character and then use it to challenge again. So Goofy, into Raya maybe could be a cool synergy, seeing how often that works, because the big issue is Goofy surviving. I guess with the new card, another new card here in I'm Still Here, maybe that's a little bit more feasible. So, you play Pete or Sisu on turn 3. Turn 4, you play Goofy and you sing I'm Still Here to protect the Goofy, challenge in with the Goofy, get some lore, and then, you've really taken advantage. You've really gotten a hold of the board, assuming your challenges work well. The big issue with these types of lists is the card draw. So the card draw package here of just Doc and Beast might not be enough. Let the Storm Rage On here is in here as well. I'm Still Here also draws a card, which is nice. But yeah, that's always the biggest issue with Ruby Steel, and that's also kind of where Maui Shark can come into play. Where Maui reads essentially whenever it challenges, you draw a card. Right, you get a card back from your discard, so it can be that I'm Still Here or one of these removals. So that I kind of like, and I'm hoping that this is at least functional. Yeah, it really sucks when you're playing a color combination that just doesn't really have good access to card draw. So. Yeah, and as you can see here, both of these color combinations are not really commonly played, not very meta relevant right now. And I'm hoping that either with Maui Shark or with any new cards that we get in some of the upcoming sets, or any other innovations that people make, maybe we can get these colors to be a little bit more relevant, because that would be kind of cool. I really do want to make sure that all color combinations are at least somewhat playable. And right, like Amber Sapphire is another color combination that really hasn't seen too much love. So yeah, that's what I really like here, is that, a card like Maui Shark just being so generically powerful, while some people might view as a bad thing, I view as a really good thing, because it means that we can kind of take that card and use it in other applications, not just Ruby Sapphire. It would be a real shame if this awesome card, all it did was buff the already really good deck in the game. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. So we'll see. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I want to talk about. I just wanted to talk about, again, my experience in the set champs, as well as these lists, and kind of the work that I'm doing and experimenting with Maui Shark. Because again, I think it's absolutely busted. I would encourage people to mess around with it. I do feel that it is, unfortunate that it is so expensive. So again, if you're playing on a budget, don't worry about it. But if you have your copies already, like I do, definitely would encourage you to try out other ways of using Maui Shark, besides just jamming it in Ruby Sapphire. So as I guess, don't do what I did. Don't do what I did and just jam 4 copies in Ruby Sapphire. But maybe try something like this. So anyway, guys, that's going to do for me. Again, super happy about getting another set champ promo here. I got the other one, the Ursula, on my deck box now, and yeah, I really like that. It's a nice little little keepsake. So gonna hold on to that probably. It's not too valuable. So yeah, let me know how your guys' set champs went. Do you guys get those scars, and what else are you guys doing to experiment in the meta before we got the new sets coming? We'll be doing set reviews for those sets when we eventually start seeing spoilers. So exciting stuff from Lorcana, and always, as always, looking forward to that. So. All right, everyone, thanks again for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you're looking for Lorcana content or Magic the Gathering content or just TCG content in general. Love talking about all the TCGs that I engage with, and I will see you guys in the next video.